The Lord has laid it upon my heart to speak to you and to send and to testify about what God is doing and how you can see God, just encountering Him in such a different way. I used to think that encountering God was a weird way to think. But when you come to a personal relationship with Him, He shows up in the most miraculous ways. And in my last 50 years, I really never thought that I would encounter God the way that I have. He has shown up for me when I didn't know the authority that I had in Him. And He says that you are the image bearer and you bring your body. I know it's weird when people say you bring your body. You bring yourself standing in front of God. And in this Christmas, if you're watching this, it's Christmas time. And it's a time for me to relish in the things that He has done and slow down and not think about the regular Christmas time. It's a time of sitting with Him and thanking Him for the gifts that He has given me. And the gifts that He has is healing part of my body. The Lord has healed my body in the last four years to amazement. And I want to share some of the thoughts that God has given me that I've put on paper. So I want you to, right now, to take a deep breath and let it out. Let it audibly come out. So you're going to just sit up tall and find wherever you are. If you are sitting, if you are lying down, if you are standing up, take that breath that God has given us. And I want to read to you what He gave me. And it's called The Fog. As the morning comes, the world comes awake as they have slumbered. You bring life to my body, mind, and soul. You have refreshed me to a new day to come and find you in the still of the dawn, as you will let me hear the nature. You awaken my feet, your feet, to the floor, to let me press in and stand. The fog of my mind is lifting. May you be on my heart and mind. The lies, let the chaos of the day before and the relentless of the night, of the restless of the night that the enemy has tried to steal away. Let me see the way that you are pulling me towards you even more now, to the breaking of the hard steel chains that the enemy has kept me in, to the altar of the heart and home. Changing is uncomfortable. Is a comfortable way to coming to be the learner running after you. I am coming to you. I will be there as you are transforming to the image that you see, that only you can unveil. And it is coming to know that we are His image. We are His image bearers in all of this, and to sit and encounter God. I have encountered Him in such a way that brings me to such awe. I live in a body that doesn't work as well as I would like it to, but God made me the way that He has to show up in the world. And I was given a verse when I went through our Revelation Wellness training that I did not ever come to me, but has stuck with me. And it's Hebrews 10:39, and it says, "But we do not belong to those who shrink back and are destroyed, but we are ones that have faith and that are saved." And I was not one at this point to step forward and to be who God made me until I stepped into a space where I was loved no matter how I moved. I was very, very self-conscious. I still struggle with that because I don't sometimes like the way that my body moves. I have cerebral palsy and it affects my right side. And I was always such a closeted mover. I never enjoyed showing up to the world because I got judged. I got shamed. I was told, no, you can't do that. Until I found people it didn't matter how I moved. And until I became the person that God wanted me to be and obeyed, He started working in my life and showing up in my body. I have gained strength because I stepped out and did it uniquely, like me. And in my ministry, it's called Flex Your Brave. And I took Joshua 1:9, be strong and courageous. Do not be dismayed. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord God is always with you. And I took the strong and courageous because I didn't know how to be strong and courageous. But He showed me that within my ability, I have breath. I can move. There are a lot of people that don't have what I have. And I am thankful for such a time as this, that I live in a time where I can move and have this kingdom ability. I've gained strength. He has provided me with movement. He has provided me with such grace in my life. He's shown up. He's lengthened. My muscles that were short have now been lengthened. Not all the way, because I'm still uniquely me. And that is my superpower. I used to look at my disability as such a detriment. And now you can say, but God, because God has shown up. And he might not heal me all the way, but he shows up for me in my tenacity. I was given a word when I went through training that my friend called me. She's like, Carla, you're an athlete. And I looked at her, I was like, are you talking? You're not talking about me. I'm not an athlete. And then a group of my friends told me that I was a warrior. So I put those two together. You're a warrior athlete. No matter how you look at yourself. I had the worst time looking at myself in the mirror because I didn't see what God saw. I saw someone that was broken down. I saw someone that was broken and didn't have, I body shamed myself. I went from, I stripped myself of my identity. When I got frustrated, I took it out on my body because I didn't look like everybody else. I wasn't as strong. I couldn't use my body the way that I wanted to. Couldn't use my hands. I couldn't use my feet. Couldn't use my legs as well. But I could walk. I could talk. So in that way, I always want to take you guys back to the Word. I always want to take you back to the Word. And I want you to know that you are loved and seen. You are loved and seen. And there is no shame. God comes where he's wanted. And all you have to do is ask. And I have this, Jesus is my personal trainer. God is I've had to look. And in my life, I've had to deal with a lot. I had to deal with breast cancer in my family that ultimately took my mom and grandma's lives. And that compounded such pain that I never dealt with. My body broke down with the CP that I have. I held everything in. I lived in a body that had chronic pain for 17 years. I lived in a body that was so fragile. And I took everything. I did not let anything out. Weight. The internal weight on me was horrible. But I looked well on the outside. I was the size 2. Couldn't gain weight to save my life. But I lived in a body that screamed every time I took a step because of the trauma, little t trauma, that I didn't deal with. And a body that held. He's like, okay, so you're going to take this? I'm going to hold it. I'm going to hold this weight and tear you down because the enemy had me down in a pit. But God showed up and came, let me look at you. And I want to read Psalm. I'm going to just go to the word. Psalm 52, 8 and 9. But I am like an olive tree flourishing in the house of God. I trust God's unfailing love. For what you have done, I will always praise you in the presence of your faithful people, and I will hope in your name, for your name is good. And I didn't believe that. It took me 17 years to figure that out, how I was dealing. But I had that ability. And to let God in and I braided myself. I spoke death over my life because I didn't think that I was worthy enough to live. And holding on to that trauma and didn't heal. I was always the victim. And I never had that relationship. I was a Christian. I never had that relationship with him. I never truly encountered him. It was like my faith of my parents. I had some time. And there were spurts in and out where I got close to God. But God never showed up. God was always there. I pushed myself away. And for my birthday this year, I was looking at all of the things and in the Psalms. So the 52 years I've been living. And then 73, when I was born, the year that I was born, it's this, you can't make this up. And the word of God is alive and well. So it says, but as for me, my feet almost slipped. I had nearly lost my foothold, for I envied the arrogant when I saw the prosper of the wicked. They have no struggles. Their bodies are healthy. They are free from common human burdens. They are not plagued by human ills. And for me, I was envious of everybody else. I compared myself to everybody else in my life. But you don't have to. God makes new. God makes you new. So this is not just a story about me. This is a story that you can live out. I have been learning so much about the ability that God gives you, whether you can walk or anything. Like, you have the ability to breathe, and God's kingdom and gaining strength is not for vanity. When I was going through all of this, I, on the outside, looked great. And then things happened. And then I started to go from really thin, but I didn't have the ability. And then I started to gain. And then guess what? Breast cancer came back into my life after I was married. I dealt with it with my mom and my grandma, who ultimately died of it. And then 6 months into being a newlywed, I got breast cancer from my birth control that I was taking. So again, and then the pounds started to add because it was trauma. I did not like it. So I spent 6 years not showing up. Felt depressed. I lived far enough away from my family as my husband traveled as a travel nurse. I went with him. So I was not with people. I found myself needing community. I didn't have community. We spent 4 years. We had great times. It was great, but the Lord was trying to woo me back. And I found a mountain in Wyoming that God met me on. And He showed up for me. And I was just like, I like this. I like this walking and faith. But I didn't know I didn't know that this ministry that I was going to find a couple years later, didn't know that it existed. How do I marry faith and fitness and your body? Because I felt very, very disqualified because of my ability, because of my body. Oh, and Jesus was like, oh, Carla, if you knew, this is your superpower. But I wasn't ready to hear it because the enemy had me down in the pit for so long that he made me believe the lie that I could not do anything, that I was the lowest of the lows. Who would want to come follow me? No one, I thought. And the devil was like, oh, I got her. But the Lord was and he's never late, even though we think that he's always late. He's always on time. And I didn't realize that he was preparing the way. He was preparing the way. And as I read here in Psalm 39, we might just read it all. You have searched me, O Lord, and know me. You know me when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know it completely. You hem me behind and before and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to obtain. That's what I thought. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If you go up to the heavens, if I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there, your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. So God was just asking for me to hold. He knew. So as I was going, I was just like, oh, and I needed community. I needed that community to come through. I had actually prayed coming forth after my husband, we moved back to Indiana. I asked for authentic community. And I had this friend who started a little blog, and I had babysat her through her birth, from birth to 4 years old. And I had been watching and seeing what she had been posting, and she was encouraging me. And so, Lord, I prayed for authentic community. And then the next Christmas, I found this ministry called Revelation Wellness. I had another instructor go through in my town that invited me. And I was not sure. I needed that community. I needed authentic community that would not judge. And when I showed up, I felt so alive. I left class. My parents were teachers. My dad was a gym teacher. I loved gym. I loved moving. As a kid, I didn't even think so much about how I moved and didn't compare. But after I left and heard the word, God showed up. God showed up, and I was still moving, but I had to modify because I wasn't as strong. So I modified. I sat in a chair. I did all of the things. I sat in the back of the class. But when you hear, there's no judge. There's no judging. There's just the ability that you have for today. The ability that you have today is the ability that God gives you. You don't judge anybody else. You don't come in and harp on yourself. It's just putting the blinders on with you and God. And He meets you. God meets you on the dance floor with the true light that God knew that was in my body from day one. God was showing up for me. God showed up and when I started listening and obeying to the things that He asked, when He asked me to keep going and to show up courageously. I've been flexing my brave all my life. I just never realized it. I had that tenacity. I never gave up. People told me I couldn't do something. Watch me. I learned how to drive. People told me I couldn't do something. You just give me some time. And that's, yeah, do it on your own time. Challenge yourself. As God challenged me to move, I challenged myself, and I learned to be in competition with myself. And then God met me in my dreams as I went to class. God met me in the floor, in the middle of the gym floor. In the middle of the gym floor. And I never, ever heard my mom audibly since she passed in 2003. We were coming to a be still time, and we kind of walk around and pray for each other after class or after the cool down. Well, someone had prayed for me, and then I felt shoulders, hands on my shoulders, hands on my feet, and some weight on my chest. And the Lord was gracious enough to let my mom speak in my ears and told me, you were made for this. Just like in Esther, you were made for such a time as this. So the passion that I felt in moving forward, God showed me to step up and do training. I trained. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. God showed up with me. It took me a few years. And in our time, we are called the Fitness Teacher Gospel Preachers. And a few years after I became a trainer or certified, he's like, you got that. Okay, so I got that kind of fitness teacher. Okay, now let's work on the gospel preacher part. And this is where I encountered Jesus. He showed up for me. My grandpa on my mom's side passed away when I was 15 months old. I never really knew him. He came to me in a dream. He was on an airplane. And he said, come in. He was a preacher. He was telling me, now it's your time. So he sat me in, and then it went to me and my sisters sitting in a circle. And he was talking to us. I got to hear him for the first time ever talking to me and saying that it was time. And it was time to move my feet forward. And I saw healing in my body. Healing in my body. I started moving my body and God telling me to show up. And when he showed up, he was showing up. And my muscles that were so tight in my arm weren't as tight anymore. Now, my arms aren't straight. My right arm isn't straight, but it's a lot straighter than it was. And so then he just kept on telling me to do the things, do the things, do the things, Carla. He's showing up for me. So when I would come and I would listen and to know his authority, to know that I have authority. We all have authority in our lives and our bodies and moving. And God just asks us to show up. Show up in his presence and he will move. And I want to read in Habakkuk 2, 1 through 4. Where am I? Sorry. The Lord, I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts. I will look to see what he will say to me and what I will answer and what answer I am to give to this complaint. Then the Lord replied, write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that the herald may run with it. I want to make sure. Okay. For the revelation awaits at an appointed time. It speaks to the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it, and it will certainly come and not delay. See, the enemy is puffed up, but his desires are not upright. But the righteous person will live by his faithfulness. So it's being the watchtower. So in this time, in this plane, my grandpa is telling me, okay, now it's your time to move. And through this, I've gained the confidence, the Godfidence of flexing my brave, authentically, uniquely myself, just as you are flexing your brave. If you feel weak, just as I have felt, let God encounter you. The best places I can be are just letting God in. When I let him in to my breath, into my body, and let him, and coming alongside of him as he is that trainer and moving in worship. I've never felt so free. I've never felt so free as when I have been moving in worship. No wonder why I felt so frustrated, because I was conforming to what other people had been asking. They put me in a box, and I am the odd duck, and I am so proud of it. I'm proud of the odd duck that God has made me to be that authentically me, flexing my brave into a space where no one thought that I would be able to be in. And that is a superpower that each one of us has. You just have to unlock it. Unlock the brave, the warrior athlete that we all have inside of us, but we don't think of it in that way. We don't think of it in that way. But God shows up when we are present, all he asks is for his presence. So I want to read 1 Corinthians 3:16. Do you not know that yourselves are the God's temple, and that God's Spirit dwells in your midst? If anyone, well, we're just going to go to 17. If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy that person. For God's temple is sacred, and you together are that temple. So at its coming, we see our temple, our body. We are a body. We live in a body. It houses God when we lift this up. When we encounter Jesus. And in that day that God met me, he fitted me. I was at a conference that our founder, Elisa Keaton, was speaking at. And for me, I'm one that is, what do other people think of me? What do other people think of me? And in that weekend, in that time, I became somebody new. I became the confident Carla that God had asked me to be. And he fitted me with the armor. You have armor that you have. But maybe the armor doesn't fit as well. Well, God wants to fit you, and he wants to etch this armor on you so that you have it forever. And in that day, he engraved my armor, and he fit it on me where I felt heavy. I felt heavy. And I felt God's Spirit move. And I have never been the same since. And then a couple years later, I decided I got baptized as a kid or as a teenager, but I felt God ask me at a retreat called Rest and Rebuild. And when God asks me to do something, he makes it pretty clear, because I couldn't move until I said yes. Until I was obedient to his word. He makes it really hard. And I've tried. Like, we were sitting on the gym floor of this Rest and Rebuild time, and they were asking for people if you wanted to get baptized. And let me tell you, I tried to scoot my little self back and forth. I could not move. God's Spirit was upon me. And you think that might be strange. But when God asks me to do something, he makes it pretty clear. The Lord has healed my body. It shows up. God gave me a fire that weekend that has never extinguished, that has just grown and made me so passionate about moving bodies to let people encounter Jesus through worship, through sitting still, being still. I used to hate being still. Now it's the best time because you can lay down, you can sit, you can let yourself go, you can breathe. You can breathe. Let it go and let him fill your breath and let him fill your voice with his word. And I will never ever be quiet about it ever again, because I've seen God's miracle. I've seen him work. And when I step up and I use my voice in authority, I have God's Spirit within me. And what you ask for, he will give. And it might not be in your timing. It took 50 years for me to get what I have, but it was in the waiting. He's never late. I've wanted this healing in my body for so long. But he said, wait, be faithful. And I'm going to end, I know. 2 Corinthians 6:16. What agreement is there between the temple of God and idols? For we are the temple of the living God. As God has said, I will walk with them and walk among them. I will be their God, and they will be my people. And again, I want to read Ephesians 2:19 through 22. And his incomparable great power for those who believe. The power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead and seated him at the right hand in the heavenly realms, far above the rule and authority, power and dominion, and every name that is invoked, not only in the present age, but also in the things to come. And God has placed all things under his feet and appointed him to be the head over everything for the church. And I want to end with my favorite in my ministry, and it's Habakkuk 3:19. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights. He has enabled me in the strength of him when I have encountered Jesus through my life. I've gone from scared. If you've ever read the book, no, Hind's Feet on High Places. That's what it's called. And that's where I got the Habakkuk 3:19. And it's coming to a person that was scared. She was scared and was not confident at all. She was lame in her leg. But when you come to know the Godfidence that God has given you and that God has given me in my ability, and he has shown up, and he can still do miracles to this day. I'm proof that when you find strength and you work in his strength, that it's not for vanity, it's for a kingdom ability. It's for a kingdom ability that shows up when you sit and move in God's presence. And that's all he asks of you, is for you to come into his presence, to work for a kingdom ability, to move in strength, to move in longevity. Because if you're like me, I want to be as mobile as I can. I want to show up in my world and show something different that people never thought that I would be able to do. So, true to the word that Mama Keats actually gave my platoon, that we're the shock troop. I'm here to shock the world of God's ability to move within my world, to move within my body, to show what is possible. Because it's the ability for the kingdom to move his word forward.